Alright, so now we're going to take a look at finding the vertex over here. So remember part 1 and part 2, these ones are both looking for the maximum. So one is asking for the maximum height, while the second one is asking for is how long did it take for us to get there. So in order to find that, if you remember in terms of doing it in calculator, everything that we do is under the second trace, under the calculate. So we're going to go second trace. This is a maximum point, so you're going to go option number 4. We're going to move the cursor, so about a point where before the maximum point, so that's your left bound, and then around to the other side. So remember, we're approximating this. So this was about the height where I did the other side. Enter. This doesn't need to be accurate. And then you press one more time for guess. So left bound, right bound, and the third time it's guess. And it will tell us that the maximum here is 1.5. So depending on how we bound it, you'll either see 1.50001 or you'll see 1.499 as you see on mine, which is okay. This ends up being 1.5. So the vertex here is, we can see is 1.5 and 12.25. Okay, so this over here tells us that the maximum height that the ball reaches is this right here. So the maximum height that it will reach would be 12.25 meters. This is your maximum height. And then in terms of the time it takes for it is this one over here. It will take 1.5 seconds for the ball to reach the maximum height. Okay, and that's what the role of this point, the maximum point, the vertex here is. Now this form itself that they have given us a question also tells us our vertex. We can always get that out, you'll notice. So we didn't really need to graph this given this form, but remember there are 3 forms that you can be given. So we can use, they can give you any of those 3 forms. So if you get the information from the form itself, maybe you don't need to go ahead and use this function to get the information. But if they give you the general form or they give you the factored form, then yes, you would need to know how to graph it and understand what it means. So this was the first point, the vertex. Now remember, it also says when this is the next one that we're doing, the height of the football above ground as the punter makes contact with it, which is this point right over here, the y-intercept. So y-intercept is always when x is equal to 0. And how do we find that one? We go second trace and point number 1, where you actually enter what x is equal to, and it will tell you that the height over there is 1. Okay, so this lets us know that the initial height where it was launched at was from 1 meter. Okay, so this height is 1 meter over here. So apparently the punter was able to make contact with the ball 1 meter above the ground. And this would be the same thing, let's say in that situation, if I was saying how high was it, maybe the ball was sitting on a table, how high is the table? 1 meter high. Okay. And the next point then, the last point that we're talking about is finding the x-intercept. So this is what we're talking about when the ball comes and hits the ground over here. This is when we are looking for the x point and the y over here is 0. So how do we find that? We go under y equal to, and we have to actually put in y equal to 0. This is the only way we can enter a y. And what happens at this point is the graph will draw a line exactly at y equal to 0. You may not be able to see it because it's going to sit right on top of the existing x-axis. And we're going to look for that intersection point between our graph and this line called y equal to 0. So when you graph it, you're not really going to see that second line show up, but believe you, it's there. So we're going to go second trace, option number 5, and then move our cursor point right on top of that or close to that x-intercept point right here and enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And the point comes out to be 0.36 3.065, so on, and they want us to the nearest hundredth would be then 3.07 seconds. Okay, so it will take 3.07 seconds for the football to hit the ground. You'll notice over there that the y point here is 0. So that's exactly what we're looking at. This point over here is 3.07 and 0. So that many seconds for it to become the height of 0. We're going to finish the rest of these parts in the next video.